Before we start the episode, just a quick note about the audio quality of this one. For whatever reason, our connection had a delay and some artifacts in the audio from our remote recording software, and we cleaned that up as best we could. I think you'll find the conversation both listenable and totally worth the small loss in audio quality. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Wits and Weights podcast, where we discuss getting strong and healthy with strength training and sustainable nutrition. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and in each episode, we examine strategies to help you achieve physical self-mastery through a healthy skepticism of the fitness industry and a commitment to consistent nutrition and training for sustainable results. Welcome to another episode of Wits and Weights. I'm honored to be joined today by Alison Bladh to talk about women's health, particularly during menopause. We're going to help demystify the associated effects on weight, brain, heart health, sleep, stress, and other symptoms to empower women to take control of their health. Alison Bladh is a registered nutritional therapist and beauty therapist living in the wilds of Sweden after falling for the charms of a Viking man. Alison worked in the health and wellness industry for over 30 years, specializing in menopausal women's health. She currently runs an online clinic helping women worldwide manage the negative symptoms of menopause. Her mission is to support her clients with individualized changes to diet, health, mindset, and lifestyle so they can harness their hormones and get their confidence and sparkle back. Alison supports busy midlife women who are stressed, depressed, have gained weight, and have lost their confidence, because all women, no matter what age, deserve to reclaim their health and feel great. Every woman has the right to feel and look amazing in midlife. Alison, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Lovely to be on your podcast, Philip. Thank you for having me.
And thanks again. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I think the listeners are going to learn a lot and gain a lot of value from this topic, which is very important for women's health. And jumping right into your mission to get women their sparkle back, what was your spark in taking that on? Like, who is Alison Bladh? Why this singular but important mission to help women during midlife and menopause?
Yeah, we all like a bit of sparkle, don't we? And it's something that when we come into midlife, I think we can lose a bit of that sparkle. But the reason that I'm so interested and have worked with women for so many years and women's health was, my journey I actually started off as an esthetician. And the reasons behind that was when I was growing up as a teenager, I suffered from very bad skin. So I had acne really as a teenager, the hormonal acne. And that really fascinated me. Why was I getting this? So I really started researching and finding ways to improve with lifestyle, taking medications. And then that led me into interest in skin and perimenopause, because that is an area where, all of a sudden you can really develop skin problems. And then I still came to reading on the outside, on the skin, that, you really needed to work on the inside as well. It really isn't enough just to treat the skin from the outside. And that's when I went back to university and studied nutritional science. So I've worked with my clients now, really working on nutrition, lifestyle and mindset to help women thrive through this time in their life, because, we all should and gain their sparkle and love of life. So that's what I do. Help you get your sparkle back.
Yeah, that's a great message. I think a lot of women can take heart knowing that there potentially is an approach with lifestyle, with mindset, with nutrition, before we necessarily have to go other routes and consider medication and so on. Why don't we, this is a big topic as we were talking about before we started recording. Why don't we just define first menopause, what it is, why it's important, especially with regards to things like hormone production?
Yeah, great question, because even though we hear the word menopause, there's still, even the clients that I work with, there's so many women and men that don't really fully understand what that is, and it isn't just menopause, it's different stages. Mm-hmm. So if we look at the first, which is called perimenopause, and this on average starts at the age of 45. It can start earlier. We're all very individual, but on average it it starts at the age of 5. And this is the stage before. So this is really where our hormones, in particular estrogen and progesterone, really start to kind of become a bit unbalanced. They really start to fluctuate. Still produce hormones, but they're unbalanced. And this is where you can see the classic menopausal symptoms happening, like hot flashes, weight gain, irritability, mood swings. I always like to say, you've got your estrogen levels, which can be quite high during perimenopause. And this is a bit like the diva hormone. And the progesterone levels can be a bit lower. And they're kind of like the calming best. So, when your estrogen levels are high and you haven't got that calming effect from progesterone, you can get very irritable and you can just very moody and anxious. And it's to do with the imbalances in hormones. So that's really your perimenopause. And that goes on till roughly around the age of 51. Again, and then what happens is when you haven't had a menstrual period, or you haven't had a period for a year, you are then in menopause, which means that you are no longer fertile, you're no longer ovulating. You will still produce a small amount of estrogen and progesterone, but your levels will go down quite considerably. And menopause really is just that phase when you haven't had a period for a year. And all the time after that, you're in post-menopause. And that can be, the next 30, 35 years of your life. It's a transition of many years. And everybody differently. Some people just do and have no problems. And some women, it can be really, a very difficult time. But post-menopause, it's like a new phase of life, really. 30 years of life where you should do things. So, what I always say to that, get the support that you need, because there's so many things that you can do. So you do thrive and have a happy, it's like a new beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, so I love all of that. First of all, the metaphor about the diva and the calming best friend, I think that really resonates in terms of the perimenopause phase. But like you mentioned, menopause is this exciting new phase of life, potentially for many decades, a big, significant portion of your life with all these opportunities for health and for just enjoying new things. And of course, why wouldn't you want to then take care of your health during that phase? So why is there still this stigma, though, attached to menopause?
Yeah, it's a great question, that, and I get asked that so many times, and I can relate when I think of when I was growing up, and my grandmother and my mother and all the women within my family network, they didn't talk about menopause. It was very, very much a taboo subject. It was kind of, no, we don't talk about that. We just, the very British, stiff upper lip, just get on with it and don't say anything. I think, it is changing, especially, I don't know in your world, Philip, but in Europe, there's a bit of a menopause revolution going on here. And women have really started to say, this is enough. We want the support. They shouldn't be stigma attached to it. But I think maybe the stigma comes from the fact that you're not fertile anymore. We live in a very society, don't we? As women get older, it's very much based as well, isn't it, society, on how we look, and everything. I think it has something to do with this. It's more of, an ending of your youth and your fertility, and it's something that maybe women feel that they don't want to talk about it as much. Whereas, right. Puberty, that's like a new beginning, isn't it? Which, it's a totally natural phase, and every single woman will go through it. So it really should be embraced rather than thought of as being terrible and we shouldn't talk about it. But I think a lot of it is to do with women getting older, and we don't really want to talk about that, and we don't want to talk about the fact that we're not fertile anymore, and sure. there's a lot of negativity around it.
Yeah, that's, first of all, stating the obvious, I can't relate directly with this, but I do, have a wife, and also I've seen the double standard with what you're talking about, because men tend to kind of, I don't want to say they coast through, but there isn't this major change or different phase in life, whereas women have this. And hopefully podcasts like this and the ones you're going on, talking about this, and especially how women can embrace it, right, and take control of their health through that phase and make it this new positive thing in life, I think, go a long way toward this. So hopefully the world is changing in terms of how we talk about it. So speaking of those changes during menopause, I imagine that one of the big ones, weight gain, is one of the bigger shocks and maybe struggles for a lot of women, which I've seen with clients as well. Why does this seemingly indiscriminate weight gain that comes out of nowhere and sometimes occur, and what can women do about it?
What it is, I see that with a lot of my clients as well. The main, one of the main reasons that they come to me, but it kind of just creeps up, doesn't it? Even if you're eating the same and have got the same lifestyle, where you didn't put weight on, you can all of a sudden just feel, especially common for menopausal women to put weight on around the middle area. We go from more of a pear shape to an apple, and it's there's so many things going on. So when we look at research, we still don't fully understand why this happens. But there's so many different parts to the weight gain. One of the big players in this is stress. It's actually virtually impossible to lose weight if you're suffering from chronic stress. Cortisol in particular is what we call a storage hormone. So if you're constantly stressed, you will find it very difficult to weight. So working on stress management is key for weight gain. But another thing that we have to remember is that you can't blame everything on the menopause. The natural process of aging, we tend to be less active as we get older, which can or may lead to weight gain. And we can't, you have to think of portion control. I know everyone loves food, but you really can't get away with eating what you ate when you were in your 20s and 30s, when you're 50. So you really, which a lot of people don't really think about, they carry on eating the same amount of food, which leads to weight gain. And then there's another, estrogen, it's a major metabolic hormone. So when we go into perimenopause, there's so many metabolic shifts that are happening in the body that may lead to weight gain. One of those is insulin resistance. When we talk about blood sugar balance in the body, when we eat carbohydrates, specifically refined, the processed foods, that really shoots our blood sugar levels up very quick. And what the body does to counteract that, it produces a hormone called insulin. And insulin really is the nice way to describe it. It's kind of like the key that opens the cell into the cell and be utilized for energy. But what happens when we have decline in estrogen is that we don't become as sensitive to the insulin. It's kind of like saying that the key doesn't work anymore. And we can find that we have high blood sugar levels, not good for weight gain. But insulin, the hormone, again. So if you've got high levels of blood sugar, it's difficult to lose weight. So it's really, again, working on processed, refined, sugary foods. Another area for hunger hormone, ghrelin and leptin. And when we, again, it's the hormone that makes us hungry, tells you to eat. So if you're producing more of this hormone, then you're going to have more of an appetite. You're going to be wanting to eat more. It affects leptin, which is our satiety hormone. And the satiety hormone is the one that, when you've eaten, tells you to stop eating. So it's all this become balance, and it's the multitude of things that make us put weight on in this time period. And also thyroid health. A lot of women, when we come into this time of our life, have, and the thyroid is like the engine of the body and isn't working optimally, it can lead to weight gain. Some of the symptoms of hyperthyroid gland is weight gain. So there's so many things. You could actually do a whole podcast on menopausal weight gain.
Yeah, I love that, Alison. I know there's a little bit of a delay here, so I'm not sure how major it is on your end, but I want to unpack a lot of that, because what resonated with me is a lot of times we talk about dieting. We're not even taking menopause out of the equation. We talk about dieting and metabolic adaptation. A lot of these same hormones come into play, right? They get downregulated, the cortisol goes up, reproductive hormones go down. You talked about the appetite, the hormones leptin and ghrelin, and I want the listener to understand that what you're saying is women in menopause, just because of this physiological change, biological change in their body, are also undergoing these things that they didn't have to deal with 5, 10, 15 years earlier. And the awareness of this is where you start to then, unpack and make changes. So you talked about cortisol. Usually people say that's the stress hormone, but I like how you also refer to its ability to help you store fat when it goes up. And sometimes people, when they take an inventory of their day-to-day life, it's not really even about the food and all their activity. It's that they're so stressed that they're preventing themselves from proper fat loss, and it may be getting sleep. It may be something like that. So I think these are important because they're factual things about how our bodies work, that if you understand them, you can then go the next step, which is where I think you come in, right? Where your mission in helping women change their lifestyle, change their nutrition. How can someone start to then modify their lifestyle based on all these changes to manage the negative symptoms?
Yeah. So if the hormone, really need to look at the nutrition, you need to look at lifestyle, and you also need to look at mindset. And there are some things that you can do to really help manage weight. And I know you mentioned sleep there, which I haven't come to that yet, but that is really key for weight management, amongst other things. Mm-hmm. But I think the main things that we think about nutrition is that we really want to eat more of an anti-inflammatory diet, because when our bodies are inflamed, it's very difficult for all the processes to function as they should. And estrogen has an anti-inflammatory effect on the body. So when that goes down, it causes inflammation. And when we're trying to lose weight, we're trying to really rebalance the body, we want to think about eating anti-inflammatory foods. And a style of eating is more of what we call the Mediterranean style diet, which is you're eating lovely fresh proteins. So in the Mediterranean style diet, they don't eat so much red meat, a little amount of red meat, but lots of nuts and seeds, all the wonderful fats like avocado, olive oil, olives, butter, ghee, and then really, getting the majority of your carbohydrates from fruit and vegetables and whole grains. There's very little sugar and processed foods in a Mediterranean style diet. And, they've seen it always in research. You will always see that the Mediterranean style diet really comes up as the best style of eating for weight loss and for overall health. And when I specifically for weight loss, we really try to focus on reducing carbohydrates and really getting their carbohydrates from vegetables, vegetables, or cruciferous vegetables. For example, when you're looking at a plate that you would eat from, you would have a protein, and then you would have some healthy, and then you have your carbohydrates from vegetables. So to really reduce the amount of energy that you're taking into your body, and eating fibrous foods as well, which are very, very important for menopausal women to help detox. Very individual, and it's absolutely not about going on a diet or restrict restriction. It's a light, and it's a change, giving someone the tools that they can eat in this way for the rest of their life, because it's not something that you can just do for a couple of weeks. It's a lifestyle change. So it also has to be realistic, that people can do, find enjoyable and delicious.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you said. Normally, I don't use named diets, but yet the Mediterranean style diet is one of the few, maybe 2 or 3 on the planet that is highly compatible. I agree with what you're saying. An anti-inflammatory diet, it's mostly unprocessed foods, delicious foods that you can incorporate, and then most of your, like you said, most of your grains from fibrous foods, which also help with other things like hunger and digestion, et cetera, but then have the added benefit of being nutrient dense, so low calorie for a lot of bang for your buck. So excellent anti-inflammatory diet. Now, would you recommend an elimination diet to get there in terms of making it sustainable, or like what are the baby steps, or what are the steps you take clients through so that they go from what they're eating today, which could be vastly different from that, to where they should end up?
So when I work with clients, I work very individually. We work together and really focusing on their goals, because everyone has a different, many different goals. The majority of women come to see me, they're normally overwhelmed, they're very stressed, they're tired all the time. They just need someone to help them and give them that energy back. So what I always work on food first. So food to nourish and nurture the body. So this is really important, because we need to make sure we're getting all the correct vitamins and minerals. So really nurturing and nourishing the body and hydrating the body, and also working with that person in a way that it will suit them, because we all have different lifestyles. We all have different, things going on in our lives. So really looking at what they're eating and taking out certain things, putting in certain things. I wouldn't, in answer to your question, I wouldn't do an elimination diet unless a particular reason that person needed it. I mean, if there's any sign of maybe allergies or, problems with gluten or lactose, etc., then yes, I would, but it's very individual. It's not something I would recommend for everybody.
Hey, this is Philip Pape, and if you feel like you've put in effort to improve your health and fitness but aren't getting results, I invite you to apply for one-on-one coaching to make real progress and get the body you desire. We'll work together to figure out what's missing so you can look better, perform better, and feel better. Just go to witsandweights.com/coaching to learn about my program and apply today. Now back to the episode. Hey listeners, this is Philip Pape, and I'm excited to announce our upcoming totally free 21-day challenge starting December 1st. It's called the Wits and Weights No Diet Holiday Body Recomp Challenge. This challenge is about learning how to achieve body recomposition. That's building muscle and losing fat at the same time without dieting or restriction throughout the holidays. I'll be giving you free videos, guides, and personalized coaching in a private group chat to help you enjoy the holidays while being satisfied and guilt-free. The kickoff call is Friday, November 17, and the link to enroll is in the show notes. No matter what episode you are listening to, don't worry. If you're hearing this after November 17, you can still register and get access to the replay and resources before the challenge starts on December 1st. Again, to join the Wits and Weights No Diet Holiday Body Recomp Challenge to build muscle and lose fat without dieting through the holidays, click the link in my show notes. Now back to the episode.
First is to nurture and hydrate, and then we move on to, elimination if needed. So what I like to do is to eliminate and then repair and then reboot. So really looking, and when we talk about elimination or removing things, it isn't necessarily always nutrition. It can also be, lifestyle habits that aren't beneficial for your health. So it's really looking at everything together and removing removing those things, maybe replacing them with something else, and then really rebooting everything and getting the body back to homeostasis. Another key area of my work is stress. So I sit down and we do a stress audit, because I think really, especially when you come into perimenopause, you have to be honest with yourself. And the majority of people, when we're living, in this age, we're all stressed to some degree. The majority of people are saying, I'm so stressed, I'm so busy. But you really have to sit down and be honest with yourself and look at things that you could maybe manage differently, so you have time for yourself to reduce. Because as we were saying earlier, it is so detrimental to health, suffering from chronic stress because of hormones and what happens in the body. So really looking at what is going on stress-wise and coming up with ideas for the clients that work for them. Could be something as simple as deep breathing exercises. If you're sat at your desk and you suddenly starting to feel anxious, anxiety is a big symptom of menopause. Amazing. You just take some really 3 or 4 deep breaths. It completely resets the body. It's actually virtually impossible to be stressed when you're breathing deeply. So something as simple as that. If you like yoga, if you like meditation, great. But the majority of people I work with don't have the time to spend, doing meditation or doing yoga every day. But I mean, that is a fantastic way to manage stress. And really just find it, even if it's just for 5 minutes, going for a walk, sitting by the window, just looking out the window of tea. Just little things, if you do them every day, really, really mount up and help to relieve stress. And I think with management, it's also admitting that you're stressed and admitting that you need to do something about it, rather than just, carrying on and on until ill or you become so stressed. You have to look at it and look after yourself. So stress audit, sure. And then I work on mindset, try how we can waste this time in our lives with a more positive mindset. I also look at testing and some in my programs as well. Again, that is very individual and it would depend on the client. We could do functional testing to test, for example, hormones. We can do stool tests. We can look at the microbiome, the gut bacteria. To really, testing is wonderful because you can really get to the bottom and you can really see, what is going on in the different systems of the body. And then it did supplementation for any deficiencies or things that we want to work with. Or that's really how I work with clients. But like I said, it is very individual. But my main aim is to result. You tell me the goals that you've got. That is what I'm trying to achieve. Get your results.
Yeah, thanks, Alison, for going through all of those. And I like the hierarchy of priorities where, we first focus on the big things like sleep and stress, and then maybe collect more data with the testing, and finally things like supplementation. Going back to stress for a second, I like that you acknowledge the fact that people don't want to necessarily add more stress to their life trying to manage stress, right? It's like, oh, now you're telling me to do yoga, or you're telling me to do this other thing, and I already don't have enough time. So go ahead and work on breath work. And every time I talk to a guest who mentions breath work, immediately I want to do it myself in the moment and realize how much it relaxes you because of the parasympathetic state it is, right? So these are excellent tips. And of course, having a coach like you, Alison, would help someone because they can individually kind of step back, get that third party perspective on those little things that can make a big difference. So why don't we get into then some specific symptoms that I think we wanted to cover. You tell me what you want to go over here, but I was thinking bone health is a big concern for women with the prevalence of osteopenia, osteoporosis, the general frailty as we age, which can lead to injury and hospitalization, polypharmacy, reduced function, so many things. I think people don't even think how important that is. We talk a lot about strength training on this podcast as one way to improve that, but what's your advice for bone health?
Yeah, that is so crucial, Philip, bone health. And it's kind of the thing, because you don't really, if if you're losing bone density, it's nothing that you really feel. It's kind of like this silent thing that can happen to you, and unfortunately, if you fall over when you're older, if you're suffering from osteoporosis or you've lost bone density, you can break something, and it's very, very. You can see in studies that the density of bone in women when they lose the estrogen and progesterone goes down quite considerably. So it's something that you really have to think of and be quite active, nutritionally wise and lifestyle, and 100% behind you on strength training, because that gives such fantastic results for strengthening bones. So what I say to all my menopausal ladies is, you have to do strength training. There's no that is a must to keep your bones and muscles strong and active. And so that is a really key thing. I mean, I'm not a personal trainer, but that is what I would recommend, that they go to a professional and get advice on how they should be training. As far as when it comes to nutrition, you need to think about calcium rich foods. The things that we need, well, there's many things, but the specific like vitamins and minerals that we need for bone health is calcium, vitamin D, vitamin K, magnesium is crucial as well. So you really have to make sure that you've got a diet rich in these vitamins and minerals, because vitamin D, vitamin K and calcium, they all kind of work together to improve bone density. So, we all think of calcium, don't we? Which of course is important, but calcium on its own, it can actually be mental. So you really have to be careful. You're going to take calcium supplements that you combine with vitamin D and vitamin K. I mean, the majority of very good supplements actually have these other nutrients combined in the supplement. I'm very much a believer in food first. Try and get your nutrients from food if possible. And when you think of calcium, you think of dairy, milk, all your green leafy vegetables. A lot of nuts have calcium in. Vitamin D it's actually quite difficult to get enough vitamin D through food, because there aren't that many food sources of vitamin D. We produce vitamin D from sunlight as well, so it's very important in the summer months that we go outside and expose our bodies to sun, because the body produces D through sunlight. But vitamin D is probably one of the only supplements or one of the only vitamins that I would recommend supplementing, because it's so difficult to get the amounts that we need. In high enough doses through. There is vitamin D in like oily fish, eggs, but I know vitamin D has been talked about so much through the pandemic as well, because of the effects that it has on the immune system. It's a crucial vitamin for many things, but bone health. And I know in Europe and in the United Kingdom, it's actually a vitamin supplement. The government, the health authorities recommend that people take as a supplement, high risk. So, if you don't go outside very much, if you're elderly, if you live in a darker climate, because it is so crucial for so many different things in the body. So that's your bone health, and also strengthening, keeping active. And avoid, again, I think every single thing when we talk about health, avoiding sugary foods, processed foods, fizzy drinks, because they really they strip your bones. They're not good. It can actually have a negative effect on your bones, especially all the really sugar-laden drinks. So avoiding sugar and really getting your diet from whole, nutritious foods.
Yeah, excellent answer to that question. I think, again, you raised awareness of how the menopause itself and the changes in hormones, especially estrogen, compounds that effect for women, right? It compounds the lack of bone density and increases the need for all of these factors. You mentioned strength training and calcium-rich foods and potentially supplementation, which are all excellent things. It reminds me in New England here, it's getting cold and dark, and get as much sunlight as I can, but maybe the vitamin D supplementation needs to be looked at. So what about some other things that are, I'm not going to say they're less important than bones, they're important for individuals, but hair and skin, for example. I know you mentioned in your story how that I think you came into this from a skin perspective, right? Healthy skin. How can women improve that during menopause?
Yeah, skin. It's a huge subject, and hair as well. Again, estrogen is we have estrogen receptors all over our body. So when estrogen levels start to it affects every system of the body, including our skin. They start noticing on your skin like pigmentation. You can get sensitive skin. You can get dry skin. You can actually develop acne, as you come into perimenopause because of the hormonal imbalances. But it all goes back down to really, eating anti-inflammatory diet, more of the Mediterranean style diet, making sure that you're hydrating enough, enough water. And then when we talk about skin, that there are many treatments that you can do that can help the skin, because also the decline in estrogen, but you've got aging process as well, because the collagen in the skin as we get older declines quite considerably. And the collagen and elastin is what our body needs, or the skin needs to keep them fresh. Protein is key, a really good source of protein for health and for hair health. So really making sure that getting enough protein, and that's something that a lot of women don't do. We don't eat enough protein. And also talking about bone health and muscular health, it's eat every meal. Roughly what I aim for, a palm size of protein with every meal. And when I talk about protein, I mean things like chicken, fish. If you don't eat meat, all your soya products, nuts, beans. Protein is also, going back to what is great for weight management, because when you eat protein, you're quite satisfied. You can't actually eat a lot of protein, so it fills you up. It's very crucial for skin health and for hair health. And using products on your skin that give moisture, an older skin, a menopausal skin is lacking hydration. Estrogen, the hormone estrogen, enables our skin to hold water. So as we become older, we lose, the skin loses the ability to hydrate as well. So you really need to use products that contain a lot of moisture and sun, of course. If you talk about, you really have to think on exposure, because that really is so detrimental for the skin as far as aging, pigmentation. So making sure that when you apply products that you have, if we're talking about the face, if you have a day cream with an SPF in, and what the research is saying is that you should really have an SPF at least of 30, because at aging, you when you come into your 40s or mid 40s, you really see on your skin what you've done to it in your 20s. So if you were, a sun worshipper when you were in your teens and 20s, that pigmentation and that damage that you did then, it kind of catches up with you in later life, and you'll suddenly start pigmentation, and you'll see that your skin will age a lot quicker. So sun protection is crucial for the skin. It really is. You really see a difference if you protect your face from the sun.
Yeah, Alison, it's funny. All of the things you're talking about to improve your hair and skin are also things that are good practice for all the other areas of health that we've been talking about as well. So it's nice that everything kind of comes together in one big package, right? Eating protein. I hear so many times people wanting to go to I don't know, collagen supplements or collagen itself, which is, in my opinion, quite a low quality protein for consumption versus just getting protein from natural food sources, as you suggest. And then the hydration and avoiding UV exposure with sunblock, but still going out in the sun to get your vitamin D, right? We have to do a little of both, are all great tips. So what about, okay, so I know we're getting close on time here. We could go into blood sugar, we can go into brain health, heart health. Maybe instead, can you share a specific example of maybe a client that you worked with who had, I guess, lost her sparkle, right, as you call it, and the steps or process you might have gone through together to get that back, so we can focus on a couple key areas that you might have worked with the client on.
Yeah, sure. I had, I'll just, I worked with for 8 months, and she came to me. She was overwhelmed, very, very tired. She hadn't been sleeping, and she had bloating. You know, her stomach. You know, she said when she'd eat, her stomach just really expanded. So your clothes feel very tight, and she was in perimenopause, and she was just generally feeling terrible, and her sparkle had certainly. So her main goals were to work on bloating and to energy levels. So what we did is we looked at her diet totally to see what she was eating, and really started putting in a lot of things that would improve her gut health, because bloating again is a symptom of perimenopause. And what we found, we actually did quite a lot of things well, and it was really interesting because there was an imbalanced biome in her gut. There's something called dysbiosis, which is the microbiome is the gut bacteria. And we've seen in so many studies now that this is crucial, you know, not only to prevent bloating, but for overall health. The microbiome of our gut bacteria has an effect on everything, even brain health and how we're feeling and mood and everything. So we really worked on that by introducing probiotic foods. Probiotic foods are things like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, all the fermented foods that have live bacteria in. So she started introducing those into her diet. We got rid of all the sugary processing foods and introduced whole foods in her diet. And once if you take away the processed sugary foods, you will start feeling better, even if you do that one thing. So after a couple of weeks of eating healthy whole food, she felt so much better. But then we really focused on the gut bacteria with the probiotics, and getting sugar improved her blood sugar balance, so she had much more energy. We worked on her sleep by introducing a sleep hygiene routine that worked for her. And it was mainly just, she had quite a high pressure job, and it was more giving her time to wind down before she went to bed, because she was sat working virtually until the time she just went right to bed. So she actually took an hour before she went to sleep to unwind, to turn off all devices, maybe read a book or just have a bath. But Epsom salt baths we introduced, which are wonderful for anyone having a problem, really is fantastic, because Epsom salt magnesium absorbed into the skin, and magnesium is such a calming mineral. So if you do that before you go to bed, it really does help you sleep. So she was sleeping better, she was eating better. We worked on her gut bacteria. She actually lost weight as well. Even that wasn't her main goal, but she was very happy about that. And what was so fantastic with this client was that I still keep in touch with her now, is that she's managed to keep all these things in place. So it's become a lifestyle for her, and she feels so much better. And she's really enjoying this new way of eating. It's not restrictive at all. And because she feels so much, it motivates her to carry on with it. So that's what just one client in particular.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. And I'm sure you have many client stories like that. And for the listener, you know, there are some bigger changes here, but there are some smaller changes that just with a little nudge in the right direction, like the sleep hygiene, fantastic example where you're not trying to get her 2 hours more of sleep per se. You're just saying, look, the blue light and the stress and working right up until you go to bed is just causing the quality to plummet. So here's a small change we can make. I like the idea of the baths too, because not only the salt baths, but just having a warm bath actually cools you down is an interesting thing people aren't aware of. Okay, these are amazing things, Alison. You gave us a ton to think about. I do like to ask one question of all guests before we wrap up, and that is what one question did you wish I had asked, and what is your answer?
Yeah, I think like the positive side. What are the positive sides to menopause? Could talk about like doom and gloom, really, isn't it? It's like, oh, this is terrible,
Sure.
and estrogen's going down. But there are actually some positive sides. So the positive sides to menopause are that you don't have any more periods, which I'm sure virtually all women will be quite happy about. No more PMS, so no more of that like mood swings and being angry before your periods. You have no pregnancy worries, so you can have sex without having to worry about getting pregnant. And normally, this isn't always the case, but a lot of women suffer from migraine, headaches. But once your hormone levels have really declined and stopped producing estrogen, your hormone headaches go away. And it's also a very impacting time. I think time for me. Now I'm going to look after myself and I'm going to do what I want. And I think it's fantastic to see women when in this stage of their life, some of them are setting up businesses, they're going off traveling around the world. It's like a sense of freedom in a way. This is me time, and I'm going to go and do exactly what I want. And you feel that you don't have to prove yourself anymore. That kind of worrying about what other people think about you, it has gone. You just do what you want to do and feel happy and more confident about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So there's both the mindset and the physical positives of this new phase of life or menopause that women can look forward to. And then, of course, take control of their health and lifestyle with many of the things you've talked about today on the show. So last question is, where can listeners learn more about you and your work, Alison? Yeah,
I think the best place to contact my website, which is AlisonBladh.com, and that's BLADH. And I'm on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and that's Alison Bladh. You'll find me those. But I also have on my website, I have a resources page, which is got lots of free downloads, lots of free with meal plans, recipe ideas. For example, if you're interested in skin health, there's a recipe book for improving skin. There's lots of different resources there that are free to download if any of your listeners are interested.
Excellent. And I know they will be. I'm interested as well. I'm going to go download some of those, and I'm going to make sure to add those links to the show notes so everyone can find you. Alison, it really was a pleasure. I think you're helping so many women up their game with regards to taking control of their health during this exciting new phase, this exciting positive phase of life. And I'm grateful that you took the time to come on today.
No, it's a pleasure. It's been lovely talking to you, Philip. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. Before you go, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy the podcast, let me know by leaving a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts and telling others about the show. Thanks again for joining me, Philip Pape, in this episode of Wits and Weights. I'll see you next time, and stay strong.